Welcome to the sleepy underworld, a place where romance blooms, magic sparkles, and timeless fairy tales are reimagined for the dreamers of today. From heart-stirring romances to spellbinding adventures, every story is a soothing escape into a realm of love, wonder, and charm. So curl up, press play, and let us carry you away to the land of dreams. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We'd love to know in what part of the world you are watching and what is your favorite tip for a good night's sleep. Thank you for watching and enjoy the video. I remember the misty morning when my life changed forever. The salt-kissed air filled my lungs as I walked alongside my grandmother on the shores of our ancestral Makah land in Washington. The beach stretched before us like an endless canvas, painted with the treasures and tragedies of the previous night's tide. My name is Talon, and at 17, I believed I understood the world. The confidence of youth shielded me from the deeper mysteries that flowed around me, like the currents of the Pacific. My grandmother moved slowly ahead of me, her weathered hands reaching down to collect fallen starfish from the wet sand. With gentle movements born from decades of respect for the sea, she placed each one back into the water. I watched her repeat this ritual dozens of times, and a sense of futility washed over me. "Grandmother, why do you do this?" I asked, my feet sinking into the cool sand. "There are too many. It won't make a difference." She paused, the morning light catching the silver in her hair. Her eyes, dark and wise as the ocean depths, found mine. Without words, she crossed the distance between us and placed a starfish in my palm. Its arms moved subtly against my skin, seeking the embrace of the water. "To this one, it will," she said simply. Her words settled into me like stones dropping to the seafloor. I joined her that morning, returning each starfish to the waves, feeling something shift within me with each life saved. That night, exhausted from our work on the shore, I fell into a deep sleep. My dreams carried me back to the beach, but instead of morning light, the shore was bathed in moonlight that danced across the water like scattered diamonds. I stood alone at the water's edge when the surface began to shimmer. From beneath the gentle waves emerged a woman cloaked in blue that shifted and flowed like the sea itself. Her hair floated around her as if still underwater, adorned with pearls and tiny shells that clinked softly with her movements. Her eyes held the depth of ocean trenches and the sparkle of sunlight on water. "Talon," she spoke, her voice like the whisper of waves against the shore. "I am Ahyoka, guardian of these waters." "This is just a dream," I said, though even as the words left my mouth, I felt their untruth. Ahyoka smiled, and small lights seemed to dance around her lips. Sometimes dreams are where truth visits us most clearly. She moved toward me, her feet barely touching the sand. From around her neck, she removed a necklace made of silver shells strung together on what looked like strands of moonlight. "Because of your kindness today, the ocean will always protect you," she said, placing the necklace over my head. The shells rested cool against my chest, but quickly warmed to my skin as if they belonged there. "I only helped a few," I admitted. "There were hundreds more." "A heart that cares for one cares for all," Ahyoka replied. "The ocean remembers every kindness, just as it remembers every harm." She reached out and touched my forehead with fingers that felt like cool water. "Carry this blessing with you, Talon of the Makah. The sea is now your ally." Before I could respond, she dissolved into sea foam and mist, leaving me alone on the shore with only the necklace as proof of our encounter. I awoke the next morning with the taste of salt on my lips. My hand immediately went to my chest, expecting to find nothing, but the silver shell necklace rested against my skin. I didn't tell anyone about my dream or the necklace's mysterious appearance. Some gifts aren't meant to be explained. In the years that followed, I grew into a man. I studied marine biology, driven by a deep connection to the ocean that I couldn't explain to my professors or peers. During breaks from school, I returned home to work on my uncle's fishing boat, feeling more alive on the water than anywhere else. It was during one such break, when I was 23, that I met Kai. She volunteered at the local marine life rehabilitation center, where I sometimes helped. Her hands moved with the same gentle certainty my grandmother's had when handling injured sea creatures. "You have a gift with them," I told her one afternoon as we released a healed sea lion back into the waves. Kai pushed her dark hair from her face, leaving a smudge of sand on her cheek that I resisted the urge to wipe away. "They trust me. I can't explain it better than that." Something about her reminded me of the sea itself, unpredictable, powerful, and captivating. We began spending our free time together, first as friends, and then as something more. I showed her my grandmother's starfish ritual, and she showed me hidden tidal pools teeming with life that I'd somehow missed, despite growing up on these shores. On a warm summer evening, sitting on the rocks watching the sunset turn the water to fire, I showed Kai my necklace and told her about Ayoka. "You think I'm crazy," I said, when I finished my story. Instead of laughing, Kai touched the silver shells with reverence. "The elders in my family tell stories of the ocean's guardians. They say some people are chosen." Her eyes met mine. "I believe you, Talon." In that moment, with the dying light painting her skin gold, I fell in love with her. Our lives flowed together like converging currents. After finishing our studies, we both found work that kept us close to the sea and one another. Kai continued her conservation work, and I divided my time between research and helping my aging uncle with his fishing business. 3 years into our relationship, I took my uncle's boat out alone. The weather report promised clear skies, but the old-timers at the docks had shaken their heads at the peculiar green tint on the horizon. I should have heeded their warnings. By mid-afternoon, the sky darkened to a bruised purple. The wind picked up, churning the once calm water into frenzied peaks. I turned the boat toward shore, but the storm overtook me with frightening speed. Rain pelted the windows like thrown stones, and visibility dropped to nothing. A massive wave struck the port side, nearly capsizing the vessel. Equipment crashed around the cabin as I struggled to maintain control. The radio crackled with static when I tried to call for help, the signal lost in the storm's fury. Another wave hit, and this time the boat lurched sickeningly. The impact threw me against the wall, pain exploding in my shoulder. Through the disorientation, I felt a warmth against my chest. The silver shell necklace glowed with a blue-green light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Ayoka," I whispered, clutching the shells. The cabin filled with the scent of salt and something sweeter, like night-blooming flowers that grew along the shore. A voice whispered in my ear, though I couldn't make out the words. The necklace grew warmer, almost hot against my skin. I staggered to the wheel, guided by some instinct deeper than thought. The glowing necklace cast enough light for me to see the controls. As if responding to an unspoken command, the waves around the boat calmed, creating a small pocket of relative stillness in the heart of the storm. Through gaps in the clouds, I glimpsed stars arranged in patterns I'd never seen before. They seemed to form a path through the churning sea. I followed, trusting the impossible guidance. Hours passed in a strange, dreamlike state. I felt neither hunger nor fatigue, only a profound sense of protection. The storm continued to rage, but it seemed to part around my small vessel like water flowing around a stone. As dawn broke, the shoreline appeared through thinning fog. I guided the boat into the familiar harbor, amazed to find it intact. The dock was crowded with people. other fishermen who had wisely stayed ashore, Coast Guard personnel, and Kai, her face drawn with worry. I secured the boat with shaking hands. The moment my feet touched the dock, Kai rushed into my arms. "We thought you were lost," she sobbed against my neck. "No one could have survived that storm." I touched the now cool necklace under my shirt. I had help. Later, after the questions and the disbelief from others had subsided, Kai and I walked along the shore where my journey had begun years ago. The beach was littered with debris from the storm, driftwood, seaweed, and dozens of stranded starfish. Without discussion, we began gathering them, returning each one to the water. When we reached the last starfish, Kai placed it in my palm just as my grandmother had done. "To this one it will," she quoted with a smile. I waded into the water to release the starfish. As it left my hand, the surface of the sea rippled strangely. For just a moment, I glimpsed a woman's face in the water. Dark eyes, flowing hair adorned with shells, and a smile that carried both wisdom and affection. "Thank you," I whispered. That night, I asked Kai to marry me on the same beach. As she said yes, I felt the necklace warm slightly against my skin, a silent blessing from the sea. Years have passed since then. Kai and I built a life together by the water, raising our daughter, Ahioka, named for the guardian who saved my life. My grandmother is gone now, but her wisdom remains. Every morning, our little family walks the shore, returning fallen starfish to the waves. Our daughter asks the same question I once did. Why do we do this when there are so many? I place a starfish in her small hand and repeat the words that changed my life. To this one, it will. Sometimes, when the light hits the water just right, I catch glimpses of a woman in blue watching us from the waves. My daughter waves to her without fear, as if greeting an old friend. Kai notices too, though we rarely speak of it. Some mysteries are meant to be felt rather than explained. But on quiet nights when the moon turns the sea to silver, I touch the shell necklace I never remove and remember that lesson. Even the smallest kindness creates ripples that last forever. The ocean remembers, and sometimes if your heart is open, it blesses you in return. By her 10th birthday, our daughter Ahioka had inherited both my connection to the sea and her mother's gentle hands for healing. Her eyes held the same depth as her namesake, sometimes reflecting wisdom far beyond her years. One evening, as the three of us walked along our familiar shore, Ahioka ran ahead, her footprints leaving temporary marks on the wet sand. She stopped suddenly and knelt, her small body tensed with excitement. "Dad! Mom, come quick!" she called. Kai and I exchanged glances, our fingers intertwined as we quickened our pace. When we reached her, Ahioka was gently cradling a tiny sea turtle hatchling in her palms. The creature was no larger than a silver dollar, its flippers moving weakly against her skin. "It's all alone," Ahioka whispered, her face a portrait of concern. The others must have already made it to the sea. I knelt beside her, studying the tiny being. Sea turtles weren't common on our shores. They typically nested hundreds of miles south. Yet here was this little one, struggling against impossible odds. "We need to help it," Kai said, already pulling out her phone to call the Marine Center where she now served as director. As Ahioka held the hatchling, I noticed my necklace warming against my skin. The silver shells began to pulse with that familiar blue-green light, subtle but unmistakable. Ahioka's eyes widened as she saw it glowing through my shirt. "Your necklace," she breathed. "It's doing the thing from your stories." Before I could respond, the water before us rippled strangely, a small eddy forming despite the calm sea. From within this swirling pool rose a column of water that took shape as it emerged, the familiar flowing hair, the face I had seen in dreams and the storm. Ahioka showed no fear, only wonder, as Ahioka the guardian approached us. Kai gripped my hand tightly, her breath catching. "She's real," Kai whispered. The guardian's gaze settled on our daughter, her eyes softening as she took in the child named in her honor. She moved closer, water dripping from her form only to be reabsorbed, never touching the sand. "You have your father's heart," the guardian said to our daughter, her voice like waves caressing shells. "And your mother's healing touch." My daughter looked up at me, seeking reassurance, and I nodded encouragingly. "This is Ayoka," I told her. "The one who saved me in the storm." The guardian bent slightly, examining the turtle in my daughter's hands. With delicate movements, she touched a finger to the hatchling's shell. A ripple of blue light spread from the point of contact, enveloping the tiny creature. "This one has journeyed far from home," Ayoka, the guardian, said. "Like your ancestors once did, little one." The turtle's movements strengthened, its flippers beating with renewed vigor. "Will it be okay now?" my daughter asked. The guardian smiled. "With your help, yes, but there is more to its journey, and yours." She straightened, her gaze encompassing all three of us now. "The ocean faces dangers greater than storms. The creatures within it cry out for protection." "The pollution," Kai said, her voice heavy with knowledge from her conservation work. "The warming waters, the plastic." The guardian nodded, sadness rippling across her features like shadows on water. "I can heal one turtle, but the sea needs more than what I alone can give." She looked meaningfully at my daughter. "It needs those who walk the shore to remember they are also of the water." My necklace grew warmer, and suddenly I understood. "You want us to help." "I want to offer a gift," she corrected. "As I once did to you, Talon." From the water around her materialized 3 perfect luminescent shells, one a deep blue with silver edges, one green as kelp in sunlight, and one iridescent white. They floated before her, suspended in air that somehow held the quality of water. "A choice for each of you," she said. "The ocean remembers those who remember it." She guided the blue shell toward me, the green toward Kai, and the white toward our daughter. "Take them only if you wish to bind yourselves more deeply to the sea and its fate." I looked at Kai, seeing my own questions reflected in her eyes. But our daughter had no hesitation. She reached out, her small fingers closing around the white shell. The moment she touched it, it seemed to melt into her palm, leaving behind a faint pattern on her skin like mother of pearl. Ayoka gasped, but not in pain. "It tingles," she said with delight. Seeing her joy, Kai and I reached for our shells simultaneously. The sensation was cool at first, then warm as the shells dissolved into our palms, leaving identical patterns. "You are now bound to one another and the sea." She gestured toward the turtle. "Start with this little one. Help him find his way home, and he will show you where your journey begins." With those cryptic words, she sank back into the water. Just before disappearing completely, she looked directly at our daughter. "Remember, little Ayoka, kindness creates ripples without end." Then she was gone, leaving only gently lapping waves against the shore. That night, as we placed the turtle in a saltwater tank at Kai's Marine Center, I noticed how the mark on my palm seemed to pulse in time with its heartbeat. Our daughter refused to leave its side, falling asleep in a chair beside the tank, her marked hand pressed against the glass. Kai found me staring out the center's windows at the moonlit sea beyond. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly, coming to stand beside me. "Binding us to whatever this is?" I took her hand, our marked palms pressing together, sending a current of warmth up my arm. How could I regret anything that connects me more deeply to you and to the water that brought us together? She leaned her head against my shoulder, her body fitting perfectly against mine as it had for all these years. What do you think she meant about the turtle showing us where our journey begins? I don't know, I admitted, but I think we'll find out soon. I was right. The turtle, which our daughter had named Silver for the unusual metallic flecks on its shell, recovered with remarkable speed. Within days, it was swimming energetically around the tank, showing none of the lethargy or confusion common in stranded hatchlings. A week after our encounter with the Guardian, I awoke in the middle of the night to find my palm glowing softly. Beside me, Kai stirred, her own hand illuminated by the same inner light. It's Silver, she murmured, instantly alert. He's calling. We found our daughter already in the hallway, her white-patterned palm held before her like a lantern. We need to take him to the sea, she said with certainty. By the time we reached the Marine Center, Silver was swimming in agitated circles, bumping against the glass as if trying to escape. The moment we entered, he calmed, floating in the center of the tank with his gaze fixed on us. He wants to go now, Ahyoka insisted, already filling a transport container with water. Under most circumstances, we would have waited until morning, followed protocols for release. But the pull we felt was undeniable, a tug beneath our skin that resonated with the marks on our palms. This was beyond explanation, beyond the rational world of marine biology and conservation that Kai and I had dedicated our lives to. We loaded Silver into our boat and set out under stars that seemed unusually bright. The sea was calm, a gentle swell rocking us as we moved away from shore. I expected to travel south, toward warmer waters where sea turtles typically dwelled. But the marks on our palms guided us west, toward deeper waters. Ahyoka sat at the bow, Silver's container beside her. The turtle pressed against the side closest to her, as if drawing comfort from her presence. After an hour, the pull intensified. Our palms glowed brightly enough to illuminate the deck around us. Silver became increasingly active, swimming in tight, excited circles. Here, Kai and I said simultaneously as our boat glided to a stop. The three of us gathered at the side, and Ahyoka carefully lifted Silver from his container. Are you sure? She asked the turtle, who blinked up at her with ancient eyes. I placed my hand on my daughter's shoulder. He'll find his way now. She nodded, bending to place Silver gently into the dark water. The moment he touched the sea, something extraordinary happened. The water around him began to glow with the same blue-green light as our palms. Silver circled once, twice, then dived. Instead of disappearing into the depths, a trail of luminescence marked his path, like a runway of light stretching ahead of him. The three of us watched in awe as the glowing trail extended farther and farther into the distance. Then, on the horizon, another light answered, a pillar of radiance reaching from the sea toward the stars. That's where he's going, Ahyoka whispered. And that's where we need to go too, Kai added, her eyes reflecting the distant light. The journey took us 3 more hours, following Silver's luminous trail across waters that grew increasingly rich with life. Dolphins surfaced alongside our boat, their bodies streaked with the same otherworldly glow. Flying fish leaped over our bow, trailing sparks of light. Beneath us, the shadows of larger creatures, whales perhaps, or something older, kept pace with our vessel. As we neared the pillar of light, the sea around us transformed. The water became impossibly clear, revealing coral structures below that defied the depths they inhabited. These were not the dying reefs Kai had shown me in her research photos, but vibrant, thriving ecosystems pulsing with colors I had no names for. The pillar emanated from a perfect circle of water that remained utterly still, despite the surrounding waves. As our boat approached its edge, the engines died without warning. The sudden silence was profound, broken only by the gentle lapping of water against the hull. We have to go in, Ahyoka said, already removing her shoes. Wait, I cautioned, parental instinct warring with the pull I felt toward the glowing circle. "We don't know what's down there." Kai moved to the side, studying the luminous water. "I think we do, Talon." She looked up at me, her eyes reflecting the surreal light. "It's a sanctuary, Silver's home, and maybe ours too in a way." Before I could respond, a shape broke the surface in the center of the circle. Silver, his small head poking above the water. He seemed to be watching us, waiting. "See? He's inviting us," our daughter said, her voice filled with the unquestioning certainty of childhood. Kai and I exchanged glances. Years of marriage had given us the ability to communicate volumes in a single look. I saw her scientific curiosity warring with caution. But beneath that, the same inexplicable pull I felt. We had both lived our lives in service to the sea. If this was where that path led, how could we turn back? "Together," I said, reaching for both their hands. "We go together." We slipped into the water as one, the temperature perfect against our skin. Neither too warm nor too cool, as if the sea had adjusted itself to welcome us. The moment the water closed over our heads, I realized we could breathe. Ayoka's eyes widened with wonder, bubbles of surprised laughter escaping her lips to form perfect spheres that floated upward, carrying the sound of her joy. Kai squeezed my hand, her expression mirroring our daughter's amazement. Silver swam circles around us, then darted ahead, clearly expecting us to follow. As we swam deeper, the source of the light revealed itself. A vast structure that somehow combined elements of coral, crystal, and living tissue. It resembled a city and a reef simultaneously, with spires reaching toward the surface and caverns delving deep into the ocean floor. And it was populated. Shapes moved among the structures, some recognizable as marine life, others more ambiguous. Forms that appeared human from a distance revealed themselves to be different upon closer inspection. These beings had gills along their ribs, webbing between fingers, and eyes adapted to see in the ocean depths. They noticed our approach, gathering at the boundary of their city. From among them emerged a familiar figure, Ayoka, the guardian. Though here in her domain, she appeared more regal, her form more defined. The flowing blue I had taken for clothing was actually part of her body, a luminescent skin that shifted with her movements. "You have come," she said, her voice perfectly clear underwater. "And you have brought our little wanderer home." Silver swam to her, circling her form before settling into her outstretched hands. She stroked his shell with obvious affection. "He is one of many who have been displaced," she explained. "The warming waters confuse them, send them to shores where they cannot survive." "But why bring us here?" Kai asked, her voice somehow carrying despite the water. "What can we do that you cannot?" Ayoka's expression grew solemn. "We are bound to the water, unable to walk your shores or speak directly to those who damage our home." She gestured around at the magnificent city reef. "This sanctuary is one of the last of its kind, protected by magic older than human memory. But even our power has limits." She approached us, Silver still cradled in her hands. "The marks you bear connect you to us now. Through them, you may visit our realm, breathe our waters, and speak our language. And through you, we hope to reach others who walk the shore." "You want us to be messengers," I realized. "Ambassadors," she corrected. "Between two worlds that must learn to live in balance before it is too late for both." My daughter swam forward, her movements already adapted to this underwater realm. "I want to help," she said simply. The guardian smiled. "I know, little one. That is why you were chosen before you were born." I felt a momentary chill, despite the perfect temperature of the water. "What do you mean, chosen?" Ayoka turned her gaze to me. Do you truly believe our first meeting on that storm-tossed night was chance, Talon? The sea has been calling to your family for generations. Your grandmother knew, though in her own way. The realization washed over me. My grandmother's ritual with the starfish, her quiet insistence on respecting the ocean and its creatures. Had she too been touched by this realm? Kai moved to float beside me, her hand finding mine underwater. Whatever this means for our family, she said, we face it together. The months that followed our first visit to the sanctuary changed us in ways both subtle and profound. On the surface, we continued our lives. Kai at the Marine Center, me dividing time between research and careful fishing, our daughter attending school and making friends. But beneath this ordinary existence flowed an extraordinary current. Once each month, when the moon hung full over the water, we would return to the sanctuary. Each visit deepened our connection to the ocean's hidden workings and to one another. Our daughter's gift for healing grew stronger under the tutelage of the guardians. My water connection allowed me to sense coming storms days before weather instruments detected them. Kai developed an unerring ability to track pollution to its source, making her conservation work more effective than ever. We began meeting others like us, families touched by the sea, bearing similar marks. A fisherman from Japan who could call fish to his nets and release them unharmed after taking only what he needed. A marine biologist from Australia whose touch could heal damaged coral. A child in Florida who walked beaches after storms, healing injured birds with the same gentle power our daughter possessed. Together, we formed a network of ocean ambassadors, sharing what we learned from the guardians. We organized beach cleanups that attracted hundreds of volunteers. We developed sustainable practices that others adopted when they saw how effective they were. On our daughter's 11th birthday, the guardians introduced her to 3 other children from around the world who shared her gifts: Kofi from Ghana, Linnea from Sweden, and Tama from New Zealand. They will learn together, Ayoka told us. The burden is too great for any single child to bear alone. I watched our daughter laughing with her new friends, her face alight with joy and purpose. Pride swelled within me, alongside a bittersweet recognition that she was growing into a destiny larger than anything Kai or I could have imagined for her. Back on our boat that night, after our daughter had fallen asleep, exhausted from her celebration, Kai and I stood at the rail watching the full moon create a silver path across the water. Our lives will never be simple again, I said, neither a complaint nor a celebration, merely an acknowledgement. Kai leaned against me, her head finding that perfect spot on my shoulder. They never were, Talon. Not from the moment you first placed a starfish back into the waves. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing against me. No regrets? I asked. She looked up at me, her face holding all the beauty and mystery of the ocean we served. Not one, she promised. As if in answer, the water around our boat glowed softly, trails of luminescence spreading outward like ripples from a stone. I recognized it as the guardian's way of showing approval, their presence felt even when unseen. To this one, it will, I whispered, the phrase that had started everything now carrying layers of meaning I was still discovering. To all of them, Kai amended gently, gesturing toward our sleeping daughter. Through her, and us, and everyone we touch. I kissed her then, under the full moon with the ocean glowing around us, our marked palms pressed together between our hearts. The kiss held everything. Our past, our present, our future, all flowing together like currents in the vast sea that had claimed us as its own. And as our boat drifted homeward, I felt the silver shell necklace warm against my chest. A reminder that the smallest act of kindness could change not just one life, but countless others across the vast, interconnected waters of our world.